Welcome to Broad Street Phanatics, episode number 13. We are really excited to have a special guest on. His name is James Clark, and he's here to talk basketball and about his training with some of good players that he's been around with, and we are excited to have him.
Man, I appreciate you guys having me, man. Thank you.
No problem. So my first question is, how do you like training players, and what do you like most about it?
How do I like training players, and what do I like most about it? Well, I love working out with trainers. I mean, I love working out with players. Since I got done playing, I think it was next best thing for me as far as being on like of a high to be able to work with guys and girls at such a high level. Getting to watch them perform and hopefully seeing them do the drills and succeed at the drills that we've been working at. That's pretty much why I do it. I love, hopefully making dreams come true and turning them into reality. And I mean, that's the best part. That's the beauty of what I do, man. Helping somebody accomplish something that they didn't think were able to accomplish.
Yeah, I think that's a great job. It sounds really fun. My question is, what have you thought about the NBA playoffs this year so far?
It's been a great playoffs. I mean, I love seeing new talent, new teams, come into the fold and start to see different players, succeeding in the playoffs, man. Devin Booker to be one, and obviously, unfortunately for us, for Philadelphia fans, Trae Young being another, and seeing guys like that, start to come up into their own. For the last 6 or 7 years, or more than that, we've been privileged to see Steph and LeBron, and a lot of older vets, have success in the playoffs. Now you're starting to see some young guys and some young new teams, and a few older guys such as Chris Paul start having some more success in the playoffs. So, I think it's great. I think it's great for the game.
Yeah, I heard you talk about Philly for a second. Let's go to them before we move on to something else. What are your thoughts on Ben Simmons' performance this playoffs? And do you think his playoff performance, because of his playoff performance, he's gonna end up going somewhere else in the offseason?
Hey, Ben had a rough patch. It wasn't a great showing on his behalf for his, playoff performance. But, like I tell people all the time, I still wouldn't trade Ben. I think Ben's a hell of a talent. He's still young. He's still very young. He still has so much room to grow. Contrary to popular belief, I think Ben can shoot, and I've seen it, firsthand. And I think Ben has the capability to shoot and shoot well. It's just a matter of him believing in his own self, and I think he does. It's just sometimes, it's upstairs, and it could be upstairs in his head. He's a reluctant shooter, and what I mean by that is somebody of that stature who's been so successful his whole career, and right now, not being as successful as something that he's been doing his whole life is probably taking a toll upstairs. And Philadelphia fans are hard, man. They're real hard to to please at sometimes, and they're real quick to sometimes only look at the negative instead of all the positives he's done. But I think he's got a great coach in Doc Rivers, and if there's anybody who can help turn him around, I think Doc Rivers can. I think he had a hard time with Brett Brown and Brett Brown's philosophies, and Ben is not really a 3-point shooter. He's a good off the dribble shooter when he wants to shoot, and I think he has to display those abilities to shoot when he's off the dribble in the 15-footer and the mid-range jump shot, which he can hit. He's just got to have him. And we saw it. We saw it in his summer league, when he first was drafted in 2016 in the summer out in Vegas. He's hitting mid-range jump shots all the time. But, in today's modern game, everybody's all about threes and layups, and they're forgetting about the other stuff. So, I'm hoping that he's ready to come to play and work on his deficiencies and ready to come out there and prove people wrong that he can score. So, but for us, for you Philadelphia fans, me being an implant, it was a rough season for us to watch.
I definitely wish you could help him with his free throws.
Yeah, I mean, it's something like the shanks in golf. Sometimes you get in your head. And I think he's definitely, psyched himself out with the teams fouling him on purpose, the hack a bin and all that kind of stuff. And that you miss one, you miss two, and you start to sink into quicksand. You start getting yourself out of a hole, and it's mentally draining. And for him, once one didn't go, the other two didn't go, and it starts. You start visualizing, you start thinking about starting to shoot, not to miss, and when you should be shooting to make, you start thinking about not missing.
Yep.
And and that tends to happen again. At that level, your mental is the most important thing. So that's something that he's got to conquer.
Yeah, I totally agree. Alex, what's your question?
My next question is, what is a typical day of training like, and what types of stuff do you work on?
Well, each player is different. A typical training day for me or for a player? Or both?
For both, yeah.
All right. So a typical day for me, training depends. I can start as early as 6 o'clock in the morning and not leave until 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So it's just a matter of how many guys I've got on deck. Typical day would be a lot of, say I'm working with and Eric Bledsoe, which I have worked with EB. So a typical day would be a typical workout would be form shooting, started out getting in some ball handling, getting in some warm up shots, and then getting into a lot of stuff that he would see or do in a game. So meaning a lot of pick and rolls. If you watch NBA basketball, if you're a point guard, you gotta be able to come off that pick and roll, and be in an aggressive mode, whether you're shooting a 3-point shot off the pick and roll or coming down into a 1 or 2 dribble pull up or trying to finish in the lane with some floaters or some euros or some runners, different finishes. So I really like to focus on what the individual really wants to focus on. And some may want to focus on finishing, some may want to focus on just strictly shooting. So, it depends on what they want to focus on, but a typical NBA workout is probably about between 45 to an hour, maybe a little bit more than an hour, 15. I normally don't go past an hour and 30 in workouts unless it's a group session, but don't do too many group sessions with professional players. At the most, maybe 2 or 3 players at a time. But a typical day for me is, I'm in the gym about 7 hours a day. So that's a long day to be on your feet.
Yeah. My question is, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was about to say, hopefully there's air conditioning.
So some places don't have air conditioning, man.
Oh,
So I lose some weight. So I'll take it that way. Yeah. When I was in China, man, I lost a lot of weight. So yeah, definitely, some places don't have air conditioning.
My question is, who are some of the big names you've worked with over the past couple years?
Well, last year was really a tough year for me, obviously, with anybody with COVID. So I didn't really I worked with a lot of guys who play overseas. I worked with a lot of WNBA players, most recently, Natasha Cloud and Kalia Cooper from the Chicago Sky. So, I worked with them, a lot over the off season and during the pandemic. I work with a young man right now who's in the NBA draft. Hopefully he'll be a lottery pick. A kid named Trey Mann out of University of Florida, former McDonald's All-American. I worked pretty much predominantly with him all during the pandemic. But let's see. I've been blessed to be around some good NBA ball players. But I'm trying to figure out, from Ben to DeJounte Murray to Spurs to Keldon Johnson. to a kid named O'Shea Brissett, who's with the Indiana Pacers, formerly of Syracuse University. Real happy for him. He finally got his shine in the NBA. Justin Jackson from Maryland. He wanted to see, BJ Johnson, local boy from LaSalle. BJ was with the G League team, but he flourished really big in the G League and overseas now in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Local kid named Quade Green, of course. I don't know if you guys know who Quade Green is, but went to New Caretti, went to the University of Kentucky at first, and the University of Washington. He's now entered the draft, so been working a lot with him and some other ball players. I'm currently out in LA running basketball camps for a good friend of mine named Phil Handy, assistant coach at Los Angeles Lakers. So out here doing that stuff, and so I'm busy. Yeah.
That's the best way to do things, keeping busy.
Got to. It's not really a job to me. It's something I love to do.
Yeah.
I just happen to, I get paid for doing something I love, and that's pretty rare these days. So,
some people say that work is just fun, and it doesn't even sound like work sometimes.
It isn't. It isn't.
Yep. Alex, go ahead. Next question.
Okay. So I think you already mentioned this, but I was wondering, like when in the Philly area,
Mm-hmm.
what arenas would you practice at?
It's primarily out of Competitive Edge and King of Prussia. I did a lot of work out of Competitive Edge. Like you said, I've been a Competitive Edge for about 6 years right now. I'm going out of there. I've been fortunate enough. I used to work out of Villanova. I work with a lot of former Villanova basketball players, the Reggie Reddings, the James Bells. I had the pleasure of working with Scotty Reynolds this during the pandemic. Darren Hilliard, one of my favorite guys to work out. So I work out of there a lot, and but mainly out of Competitive Edge and King of Prussia. Yeah.
Did you get a chance to work out at the Sixers training facility?
I've been in there. When I had Amir Johnson, I trained Amir Johnson when his brief stay with the Sixers. I would be at their new practice facility, beautiful facility out there in Camden. But I haven't been out there. Obviously, during the pandemic, they don't really allow non NBA personnel from that team into those facilities now. And I don't know if that's going to change or not. But I haven't been out there in about a year or so.
That kind of leads me on to my question. Is there a specific team that you've been really impressed with during this playoffs? And so who is it?
Oh man, I'm a huge fan of Phoenix Suns. I've got to know Devin Booker's father, Melvin Booker, pretty well. When I was doing some pre-draft work out in Phoenix, and we stayed in constant contact. And I just like the way Monty Williams has definitely coached up his team. Now, granted, my friend Phil will probably be mad at me for saying that, obviously, because he was coaching the Lakers and they lost to the Suns in 5. But the Lakers were injured. I think had they been healthy, it might have been a different story. But just watching the growth of Phoenix and Devin and a kid like Mikal Bridges, who I've seen when he was at Villanova. I love the kid. Cameron's playing well right now. Cameron Payne, I think he's playing. Kudos to a guy named Chuck Ellis out of Philadelphia. Chuck trains Cam, so that's big ups to him for that. And DeAndre Ayton's playing out of his mind right now. I think he's averaging 20, about almost 20 and 20, almost close to it. I mean, those are growth spurts, man. Those are growth spurts for a young team, and to see them play well. I'm hoping Milwaukee can pull this game off against Atlanta, but I got to be impressed with the way. Got to be impressed with the way Atlanta's playing. To start out on the road, I think in every series they've had, and for some reason coming out on top is pretty impressive. I think Nate
Yeah.
McMillan's done a great job with them. Even though they let go of my guy, as head Lloyd Pierce's head coach, but Nate's done a tremendous job. Just the team, the structure of the team, and the ratio of youth to veteran is pretty big, man. So you got to be impressed with them. But I'm low key wishing Milwaukee and Phoenix would be an NBA championship, NBA finals.
Yeah, I can see that. I would like to see that too.
Yeah. Darvin Ham's a good friend of mine of the Milwaukee Bucks. So, I'm hoping he can get over the hump and finally get in the NBA finals. But, Devin Booker, man, he's playing out of his mind, even though he had a bad game the other night. But, he also had a broken nose in 3 places. So,
Yep.
yeah, it's tough.
So my next question is, are you thinking of doing like a documentary of like a day in life of your training?
Man, wow. I mean, I would love to do that. It's just about finding the right videographer and the right time. I'd love to do something like that. And I've talked a lot about it with a few people. Notably a guy named what's my man? Michael Croker out of the Bay Area, since that's where I'm from, originally born and raised out in the San Francisco Bay Area. He did a small documentary on me a little bit ago. It's on my IG page, Clark J22 on IG, called My Why. And he followed me a little bit, but we didn't really do any kind of video footage of me training, with the exception of the one when I had Reed Travis he's formerly at Stanford University in Kentucky. But I would love to do something like that, So, for people to see what I do for a living and how strenuous it can be, and being on the court with some 20-year-olds banging on you, they might get a different perspective on my job. So for sure, I'd love to have something like that happen.
Go ahead, Alex.
Oh, sorry. There's actually a trainer I follow. His name on Instagram is Lethal Shooter. And I was wondering if you know him.
I have not. I don't know him. I've heard a lot about him. I think I don't know him personally. I can only admire from afar. It looks like he does a great job of what he does in his gym and with his players. So, you gotta, this life ain't easy. These guys out there doing a lot of work, and you gotta give kudos to guys who are really out there doing the hard work.
Yeah.
And before I give the questions to Cameron, I was curious to know if you know any current Sixers players.
Do I know any current Sixers players besides Ben? No, not really. I haven't. At one point, no, I don't have any current. I have met Matisse Thybulle. I remember when Matisse was coming out of University of Washington. We were in the same. He was training out in Phoenix when I was doing my pre-draft workouts. He was doing his with a guy named Phil Beckner from his agency. So I know Matisse in passing, and if we saw each other, he would definitely know each other, but don't really have too much of a personal relationship with
him. My question is, I heard earlier, I don't remember which question it was, but you talked about a little bit of the work you've done in the WNBA.
Yeah.
And to me that stuck out, because I don't know, I'm one of the biggest WNBA fans you will ever meet. I was wondering what other players you worked with, and who are some of the cool players you ever worked with in the WNBA.
Oh man, I used to work. I probably don't know this, but I was an assistant coach, video coordinator with the Orlando Miracle in the early 2000s, which is now the Connecticut Sun. So I worked with Katie Douglas, who's pretty big time in her own right. She was an all WNBA player, former NCAA champion at Purdue. Pee Wee Johnson from LSU. She was an Olympian. I haven't, recently just focused with Natasha. Coaching. I coached women's basketball for about 8 years, so at the Division I level at Drexel, Wagner, and Georgetown. So Natasha and Kalia definitely the two that I've been mainly focused on this year and trying to get them right. And Kalia's having an outstanding season right now. I'm currently wearing her shirt.
Yeah.
But Natasha's, their team started out rough, but they turned things around. I think they're in 4th place right now, looking at a playoff run. And she currently she's injured right now, but hopefully she'll be getting back on it. But getting back to playing hopefully within the next week. But I welcome anybody who wants to work out. I think it's I got 4 sisters, I got a daughter, so I love women's basketball, and it's always been intriguing to me. And I think it's a great game that people need to continue to watch.
I couldn't second that more. I absolutely love it. I've started following. I even have a favorite college women's basketball team. You can ask Alex about it.
Which team is that? Which team is that?
The UConn Huskies.
He's a UConn Huskies guy, huh?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You like Paige Beckner?
Yeah, and she's very nice. I've had a chance to meet her a few times. The whole team, very, very nice. She everybody.
You're gonna love AZ when she gets there. She's a great kid. I had the chance of meeting her and her parents last year at the Blue Star 30 camp out in Tampa when I was directing that. So she's a great kid. So I think UConn keeps on getting better.
Yeah. I actually had the pleasure of meeting AZ at a Connecticut Sun game.
There you go.
Just a couple of weeks ago, I met the whole team. Paige was there, AZ was there. They were all there.
Yeah, man. It's they're back in the Big East. So watch it. I feel bad for those Big East coaches, but yeah, man, it'll be fun and exciting to have them back in the head that UConn Huskies. So we'll see how that goes this year next season.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Alex, do you have any more questions? Or
I have one more question.
All right.
So I kind of wanted your mock draft, the top 6 to 7 first picks in this year's NBA draft.
Man, I wish I had a good mock draft for you, man. The only kid I really want to see get drafted, I got a couple guys, obviously Trey Mann, of course, I want him to get drafted. Quade Green, I'd love to see you drafted. The kid I coached in high school, went to St. Joe's, Ryan Daly. I'd love to see Ryan get an opportunity. And another kid I coached when he was in the AAU out of Lafayette. I think he's one of the best shooters in the draft that probably people don't know about. Is a guy named Justin Jaworski out of Lafayette University or Lafayette College. I think it's Lafayette University. But obviously, you can't go wrong with a Jalen Savage. You can't go wrong with a Evan Mobley. You can't go wrong with the kid from Oklahoma State. What's his name?
Cade Cunningham.
Cade Cunningham. He's a freaking beast. I love the way he plays. I don't really know too much, man. Like I said, I focus a lot of my this year on Trey Mann. I think he's one of the best shooters, best guards that's going to be out there, and I hope he gets to sneak into that lottery pick. I think he can, and I think he will. But this is an unbelievable time for these young men to get out there, and they're going to hear their name called and dreams come true that they've been thinking about since they first picked up a basketball when they were 4 or 5 years old, and playing out in the backyard, thinking they're going to be a number 1 pick, and hopefully it comes true for these guys. So, yeah.
It sounds like you have a tremendous job, and I'm really jealous of you getting to work with some incredible athletes, and I wish you nothing but the best in the future. And I'll definitely look forward to hopefully watching a documentary of you someday.
Man, Alex, man, I really appreciate that, man. I hope that documentary comes out too, man. Man, Cam, you guys will be the first guys I send it to, man. I appreciate that, man. Like I said, I thank you guys for having me on the podcast, and anytime you guys want to reach out and talk, man, and talk hoops, my line's always open.
All right, perfect. Okay. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys, man. Y'all have a good night.
You too.
You too.
All right.